Okay, so I am actually super happy for this because I basically gonna get a break from making things up and we are gonna do something real. Now, I am at a site called RoboFort. You've seen the site, it actually just got skipped. But if you were to go on the site and you were to click on faces, you're gonna get here and you can just pick a face that basically resembles your character. In my case, I think I'm gonna pick him because he's also kind of old and his skin is gonna be much more accurate to my character. That's why you can see that I'm actually opening this guy. So let's talk about the skin. Yeah, because we are gonna be making the brush. So before we do that, you can see some of the things that's going on right now, and the first thing that I'll actually say is, if you were to compare the depth of the pores in this guy and the direction, like you can see, because the skin, this is obviously because of the gravity, you can see these lines forming. And also the pores are not actually that deep. If you were to compare him with a younger character, you're gonna see that the pores are actually much more deeper, but in this case the pores are not that deep. And you can see this breakup in the lines, like these lines are not continuous, there are breakups. You can like see how the lines are breaking up. So you need to make sure that you basically try to simulate this in your portrait as well. If you are like creating a crease, try not to have that crease a single line. Try to connect the pores, like you can see that the pores are also connecting over here with these lines. So this is also one of the things that we are going to be doing, like you can see how the pores are connected. And these are some of the things that we need to make sure we do as well, because this is actually going to be much more natural and much more realistic. If you were to create a line that is not connecting the pores, it's not really going to look natural. Now blackheads, as you can see that the blackheads are not actually the pores that goes inside, but they actually come outside. Like you can see this volume is kind of like pimple, they are kind of like pimple. And there are bigger blackheads and smaller blackheads. In my case, my character actually does not have these, so I am gonna be skipping on this part. But if your character were to have this, obviously go ahead and create this. In my case, I'm not gonna create those. But yes, you can see the amount of depth we have in our pores, and the amount of frequency we have in our pores. As you can see how randomly distributed the pores actually are. And yeah, if you were to compare the depth of these pores with this younger guy, like you can see how deep the pores are. And like you can easily compare it with the older character. The depth of the pores are so much more, and also the directionality is not there. Like you can see, because the skin is not saggy. And yeah, the skin is still pretty solid in this case. The direction is still kind of lost. I mean, the direction is not there, but you can still see that the pores are connecting, like, right? So if you are creating your character, try to connect the pores in your character as well, even though if the character is a younger guy. You can see how the pores are connected, and you can see the randomness in the pores. Like there are smaller pores, there are bigger pores. So when you were if you were to sculpt your pores, try to have this randomness in your sculpt as well. And yeah, these are some of the things that you need to make sure that you actually get correctly, the bigger pores and the smaller pores. And also the depth, there is a difference in depth. So we are going to be creating a depth brush as well, which is going to be used as increasing or decreasing the depth of these pores, so that there would be more randomness, right? And yeah, there is also one more thing. As you can see, each and every single one of these pores have this star like shape. So it is like sun emitting the light. When we were kids, we used to draw the sun emitting lights. This is actually kind of like this, kind of like star. And yeah, right now I'm just taking the screenshot so that I can basically put that into the pure ref file. And yeah, I'm just gonna take a bunch of screenshots. I think I personally don't think what I'm gonna do, but yes, taking the screenshot. And yeah, like you can compare the skin, by the way, just see the amount of depth you have in the pores. I mean, right now I'm looking at the blackheads, which I'm not gonna make in my character, but I'm gonna show you how you would be able to make the brush for these blackheads. So yeah, I am just gonna take the screenshot, even though I okay, so let me tell you the reason I took the screenshot for the blackheads. I thought that my character is gonna have the blackheads, but when I studied the skin a bit closely, for my character, I've realized that he actually does not have blackheads, so I end up not, putting these. But yes, you can like see this website is actually pretty nice. You can see so much of these details, and yeah, it is pretty clear. Like you can see how the wrinkles are going, how the veins have been grown, how the tear lines are going. And right now I'm talking about wherever there is hair on the eyelashes, there is a bump on the skin. I really hope that you can see it, by the way. We are also gonna create a brush for that, for these bumps. And yeah, this is actually gonna be something that that's not gonna be boring, I think, because we are gonna be creating these brushes from the scratch. And yeah, this is basically what it is. Okay, so yeah, that's basically it. You can see the depth. You can see. I mean, in this video, I'm not really gonna talk about the skin itself. There is gonna be a separate video for that. But yeah, in this video, you can like see the shape of the pores and everything, and the lines that we have. Like you can see all these lines, all these distances that we have in an older skin. So yeah, these are some of the stuff that we're gonna get into our portrait. And you can like see the depth of the pores as well. But yeah, this is like some of the skin stuff that we are gonna talk about later. So just jump into the blender and start creating the brush. Okay, so we are in Blender, and one of the first thing that you need to do is you need to add a plane. And the reason is we are gonna be sculpting the pore on this plane, and then we're gonna be creating a displacement map out of this. I really hope that was actually pretty simple to explain. Actually, it was simple to explain, but I think I really hope that it was not hard for you to understand. So we are not gonna be using the simple subdivision. We are gonna actually, by simple, I meant to say the okay. We are gonna be using the simple method of subdivision so that it does not deform its shape, and it would basically stay as a square. Now you can like see that we have 9 subdivision, and with those 9 subdivision, if it feels like that it is not good enough for you, then don't worry. It actually is good enough for you, because in the end these pores are gonna be on the small little skin, not the small little skin, but these pores are going to be pretty small, so you're just going to lose the details anyway. And yeah, I am just going to put the pureref file over here to basically look at a pore as a reference. And now we can basically just duplicate this reference onto our sculpt. Now obviously you don't have to be super accurate, but yeah, having a reference is actually better than not having a reference, right? Now the way we are going to be approaching creating the pore is pretty simple. We are going to be using the draw sharp brush, and then okay, yeah, this is the draw sharp brush. And if you were to go on your stroke, the method is going to be anchored, and you're going to see you can basically create a shape like this, a conical shape like this, and try to put this into the center. By the way, you can enable your grid. In my case, I don't know why I thought of that when I am doing this, but yes, you can enable your grid, and that way you're gonna be able to put that exactly into the center. But yes, right now we have this, and if you feel like that the depth is not correct, you can like literally just scale up or scale down this particular area. If you were to feel like that the depth is not correct, by the way, in my case, I think the depth is kind of okay. So now what I'm gonna do, if I were to start doing it, I'll just okay. I am gonna put the brush back to space. I think it was space, right? And after that, I'm just gonna start marking these lines. Now I am not like adding the volumes or removing the volumes. I'm just drawing these lines, and after that you can add the volumes. Also, you can see how I am breaking up these lines to add more randomness. And these lines are also not straight, right? As you can see on the port, these lines are not straight. So this is also one of those things that I'm making sure that the lines don't come out to be straight. Now what you can do, you can use your either the draw brush or the clay brush to basically add volumes in between. Try not to add the volumes on the outer part of the plane, which is something that I am gonna do, and then I have to remove that from there. But yes, you can see that I am basically adding this, and it is kind of lagging. I don't know why it is lagging. As you can see, this is actually so weird. Okay, I Wait, this is actually kind of weird. Maybe it was a bug or something, because we've sculpted on 50 million mesh in this course and it actually didn't lag. But okay, maybe something have happened, and it actually have started lagging. As you can see how I'm adding the volume, by the way, this is gonna be the workflow when we'll go into the skin detail as well. Because I don't really want to use the smooth method as much. Basically, I don't really want to smooth my stroke. I am gonna be using this soft clay brush to add or subtract the volumes instead of the clay strip brush. And even if I were to start using the clay strip brush, what I'll do, I'll actually just remove the hardness. There is an option to do it. You can literally just remove all the hardness, and you can increase the tip roundness in a brush. So tip roundness is just gonna remove all this hardness that you are seeing in the brush right now. Yeah, in this case, I am actually adding the volume with the clay strip, because right now I don't really care about like smoothing out stuff and destroying the details that we have underneath. In this case, we don't really have any details to destroy underneath, so it's totally fine. By the way, you are also gonna get these brushes, maybe not the files, these sculpted files. I don't know, maybe if I were to find these files, if these files are actually still there, I'm gonna be providing you these. But yeah, you are definitely gonna get these brushes. So maybe you're also gonna get the files. I cannot remember if I have these files saved. There is a possibility that I might not have these saved, but yes, you can like change these, and just do whatever you want with these files, if I were to give you these. But yes, this is basically what I'm doing. I am adding these volumes, and like you can see on the reference how much of the volumes you need to be added. And after I'm done adding the volumes, I'm also gonna be breaking up the skin. Right now I'm only focusing on adding the volumes. So yeah, like in this case I am using the crease brush, even though I feel like crease brush basically destroys the geometry a bit. In this case I don't really need to think about the geometry, because in the end we're going to be creating a displacement map out of it, and we can actually create that map without like having to worry about the geometry, because we are going to be rendering the displacement map by putting the camera on top. I'm not gonna be creating a displacement map through the UVs, by the way, through the UVs of the planes, because baking the displacement map is not accurate in Blender. This is also one of the things that we can talk about actually. I've tried baking this, making this mesh onto a displacement map, but that bake was not accurate. You can like try yourself if you really want to, and I've tried it, it just didn't work, so I had to do the rendering thing, which I'm gonna show you in this video. Even though baking should have been much more accurate, right? Because let's just say that you are creating a character for animation, and it is a character like Thanos, let's just say, and you've added all those details in your sculpt, and now you are baking your map. It is not gonna be accurate to the sculpt. Like there is gonna be a slight difference in the depth, and there's gonna be a slight difference in the sculpt at the tertiary level. I'm not saying that it's gonna be super off. I'm just saying that it's gonna be a little bit off at the tertiary level, but it's still off, right? It should have been accurate. It should have been like 100% perfect, but it just turned out to be that it's not. And as you can see, I really don't want this part to spread to the edges. That's why I'm smoothing the edges out. This is also one of the things that you need to make sure you do, because in the end we want this brush to be seamless, right? So in order to have this brush as a seamless thing, you need to make sure that these does not actually spread to the edges. And right now I'm just creating this variation on the lines, as you can see, like I am doing this zigzag pattern. So these are only here to create the randomness, nothing else really. Like you can see this this line is, these lines are pretty straight, so I'm just adding a little bit of like breakup in between the volumes. And yeah, again, this is just me breaking up these volumes. I personally feel like that you don't really need to do it as much, because in the end, when you'll be using this brush, there are not gonna be enough polygons in your mesh to basically have these details. But I think it's still better to have this rather than not have these, right? So yeah, I am just adding these because I can. And I think maybe if you were to create a character that might have that much amount of polygon, it's just better to have more details, right? So that's what I'm doing. And I've just realized that I did make a mistake in the future, and I'll also like acknowledge that, and I'll also tell you not to do it, by the way. So yeah, this is basically our pour, and it didn't really took that long to sculpt. So now instead of baking, like you can like do this bake by putting the bake type to displacement, but it just does not work. The I mean, you would get a displacement map, but that displacement map is not gonna be accurate. If you really want to, you can try it yourself. In this case, I am not really gonna do it. I am instead gonna go into the shading, like shading workflow. And yeah, I'm gonna just put this camera up and have this camera at the ortho, by the way, so that you won't really get any of the perspective distortion. And put the resolution at a square like level. And yeah, just increase or decrease the orthographic scale according to your need. So in this case, I basically increased it a bit more so that I don't really need to worry about it not rendering. Now you can see that I am using the geometry node, and it is giving me the position of all these vertices, not the vertices but the position of the, like you can see on the z-axis, you can see whatever is at the top is being rendered as add. Okay, so whatever is at top is being rendered as white. And now if you were to just add zero point 0.5, there is gonna be a gray area which is gonna be neutral, right? Because the black, if you were to use the black, that part is just gonna go beneath. And in the color management, this is important. You need to make sure that the view transform is at the standard, not the filmic, because filmic does actually like it is not the true colors that you see. So you need to make sure that you are at the standard, by the way. And for the render output, the color depth, you need to make sure that you are at the full depth, right? Otherwise you are just going to lose some of the details. You don't want to lose the details. And now you can just render a image. And as you can see, I'm rendering it at 200 samples. I don't think it really was needed to do. And make sure that you save it as an OpenEXR or TIFF file. So one of those two would work perfectly fine. OpenEXR or the TIFF file. In my case, I've used the OpenEXR. Okay, now I'm gonna demonstrate you how you would use that particular image. So I have duplicated this image, and I've also added the subdivision so that we basically have enough resolution to sculpt something on it. Now what I'm gonna do, I am gonna go into my brushes setting. So okay, like yes, right now. And first thing you need to do is you need to add that texture, obviously. So open that texture up. And actually I'm just opening it, so just give me a sec. Yep, open this up. And make sure that you remove the clamp and this half float precision, because this is gonna like remove some of the details. Like we've used the full float and it is just gonna make that half float. And also remove the clamp. We don't want any of the clamping on our image. Now the first thing you need to do, you need to make sure that the mapping is at either the area plane or the view plane, either of those. And stroke is gonna be anchored. So now if you were to just create a stroke, you basically are gonna get something like this. because we need to make more changes to the brush. So first thing that we need to do, we need to actually change the fall off to constant, so that we basically get something like this. And now the strength is actually low, so we need to make sure that the strength is at the fullest. And now you are seeing that we are actually getting the pore pretty nicely, but there is a bump, like there is this elevation that we are getting. So we need to make sure that we actually subtract this elevation. And in order to do that, we're gonna have to go into the brushes setting again. So let me just go into the brush setting, actually texture setting, not the brush setting. And in the texture setting, you need to like decrease the brightness. So decrease the brightness to 0.5, and you can see that you are actually getting this exactly like we've sculpted. So yeah, this is pretty nice. And there is one thing that's happening. You can see on the edge, there is this elevation that is still happening. So if I were to just sculpt it again, you're gonna see that there is this elevation on the edge, right? There are two ways of fixing it. The first way is you can try to basically change the brightness setting. So for example, 5.15 or 4.9. But let's just say that you were not able to fix this. What you need to do, let me actually just try fixing it with this. But if you cannot do, what you need to do, you need to put the constant fall off to smooth. And like you can see that it basically works. So the smooth is basically just going to remove that edge, but it is also going to smooth out some of the outer part of your alpha. But if you are okay with that, in this case it is actually working, so I think it's better to just use the smooth, not smooth but smooth fall off. I think it is gonna work for you as well. Now we are gonna create another brushes. So instead of pour, like we've already made the pour, right? It's just an alpha. We can actually start creating another brushes. So the second brush could be, let's just see which brush I am gonna make. So the next brush is going to be the pimple brush. Pimple is kind of like blackhead actually. I think I've named it pimple, but it was actually the blackhead if I'm not like mistaken. Yeah. I'm naming it pimple, but it is actually blackhead. So yeah, you can I think you can use it as a pimple as well if I'm not like mistaken. Maybe you can use it as a pimple as well, but yes, in this case I am gonna be using the blackhead. Not using, but creating the blackhead. Now I am gonna put the draw brush at its default. And now it is actually pretty simple. You just need to create a hole like this, not like super deep hole, and then you basically just need to put something in positive. So this is gonna be your black head. And yeah, just create a shape like this and add some of the randomness. Maybe if you were to feel like it is going a bit too above, just push it back a bit. And yeah, this is basically your black head. Now again, do the same thing, do the render and use it as an alpha. I think I've already shown you the process, so I'm not really gonna do it again. You know how you would render, like you can see that I am rendering it again. Make sure that you are using the full float, don't use the half float. And when you are using the alpha in your brush, try not to clamp it, okay? And I am using exr, by the way. You can either use exr or tiff file, both of the files work. And yeah, that's how you would create the brushes. I think I'm gonna make more of those, so let's see what else I am gonna make, because I've totally forgotten the brushes that I make actually. So we're both gonna learn. And this is also one of the things you can do. You can literally just use the multi res eraser, displacement eraser. And yeah, that's also one of the things you can do. And I think I am creating this one. I don't know which one this is this going to be the pimple one? I have no idea which one this is going to be. Okay, so I am creating a border depth. Like you can see, there is a part that's going in and there is a part that's coming out. So instead of the flatter version of the blackhead, I think this is this one is the rounder version, more spherical version. So this is just the version of blackhead. And yeah, this is how, that's how the Okay, so I am naming it Pimple 1, but you can actually use it as Pimple, by the way. I don't think, I mean, pimples are not really that different from this shape. So, yes, you can either use it as a blackhead or a pimple. I think both of those cases are just going to work. Now I have paused a bit. I don't know why. Maybe I was talking about something which I obviously don't know. Okay, so now we need to make the multi-pore brush. I think that's what I'm gonna do if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe some other brush. I don't know. We'll see what else I am gonna do. I mean, there's gonna be multi pore brush. This is the random brush that we need to create, by the way. And this is gonna be helping us to create some of the randomness in the skin. So use the draw brush, put the mapping at tiled, and then use the jitter and remove the rate a bit, and you're gonna see that you are gonna get these dots like structure, and these structures are gonna be used as the skin, what do you call it, the skin randomness. And we are going to be using this in the future, so don't you worry about it. You can like change the fall off in order to create some of the cooler stuff, but yeah, you can like see how changing some of the settings could like give you one of the nicer looking result. This is something that we're going to be using in the future for the skin randomness, but yeah, changing the jitter and the rate is the only thing that I'm doing right now. So okay, now this another brush which we are going to be using as skin direction. So this is going to help us create the direction that we've seen in the references, right? Now this alpha that you are seeing right now, I've basically drawn this. It is kind of similar to the alpha if you are familiar with the Z brush. This is basically where the inspiration came from for this brush, and I am going to provide you this alpha. This alpha is going to be created for the sake of creating direction. Now we are doing some of the changing in the settings. So for example, the stroke method is going to be your airbrush. The stroke method is going to be airbrush, and you need to make sure that you are using the rake so that the direction actually follows your stroke. If you are not going to use the rake, it is just going to be straight. But yes, add the rake, like on like checkbox the rake, and it is gonna follow your direction. And yeah, with a little bit of jitter as well, we are gonna get a pretty nice looking brush. So yeah, this is also one of those brush. I am gonna provide you with the alpha, by the way, so don't you worry about it. Or maybe a file that's gonna have all the brushes, and you can also just append the brushes in your scene. Now we are gonna have to create the multi-pore brush so that we basically can save some time, and this is something that we have our references for. One of the things that I've actually did in this one is I've basically made a mistake to create all the randomness in this brush. Don't try to do that. Try to have like at least in terms of depth, you can have some randomness in this brush, but don't try to have too much, because you can add randomness later. Like you can obviously have the randomness in distance or maybe the size of the pores, but don't try to have randomness in terms of the depth. And in this case, I've tried doing the same, and that just didn't really worked out in the end. I mean, I had to fix that manually after I was done adding the pore in the skin. But yes, this is one of those things that try that you should try to avoid. And right now you can see that I'm basically just creating a alpha, and I am going to try to put that into the circle, by the way. What you can do, you can either add a curve or a circle on top to see where the boundaries should be, and basically just try to have these in the circular, like you'll know what I'm talking about in the future, by the way, because I'll actually explain that in the future. Try to have this in circle. That's all what I'm gonna say. Okay, so right now I'm only like trying to add these, and I'm also trying not to add these in a jittery way. Try to have as much randomness as you possibly can. You can see the references that are available on these websites. The website is again Robofort, Robot, and on there you can just click on faces, and that website is basically gonna just send you here, and from these you can just choose the face which is gonna be similar to your character. If you are creating a younger one, just use a younger face for the reference. In my case, I'm using this younger face just for the placement of these pores, but in the end I am still gonna be creating the skin by. Okay, so I've created this circle, and now I'm just gonna try and have it as a boundary so that all of these pores are gonna be inside this circle. And yeah, basically this is what I've told you. In the end, the shape needs to be circular so that it would be like you've seen in the pore brush, right? How we've used the smooth like smooth fall off, and it basically have just removed the outer edge. So if you were to have this in the circle, it is gonna remove the outer edge if it would have any, and won't affect the inner part of the pores. So yeah, that is basically the reason that we are doing this. Yeah, don't create the pores like that big, because it is not gonna work out. Like you can see the difference in the sizes. You can have that, by the way. It is totally fine to have the difference in sizes, but don't try to put the difference in depth right now. And you're gonna see actually why. Because I made this mistake in this course, and yeah, this is the reason I've told you we're both gonna learn. So yeah, you're gonna see that this is basically done, and it is going to be our multi-pore brush. Yeah, that's basically it. And wherever you feel like there is a gap, you can actually put the like you can put the pore in there. So for example, if you feel like there is an area where it is a bit too much of a gap, you can just put the pore here. I mean pore there, not here. So yeah, this is basically the render. As you can see, you literally cannot see anything, but trust me, it works. It's gonna work. So yeah, I am gonna subdivide and try to like show you that this actually works. So let me just create another brush, basically the copy of it, and name it multipore brush, so that I only have to just replace the alpha. I don't really had to set up everything. So multipore brush, and yeah, I can now just select the alpha, by the way. Yeah, and now all the settings are saved, so that's pretty nice. And like you can see that we've basically created the brush. And yeah, that's I think it for the brush. Is there anything else that I'm gonna do? I have no idea. If I think this is where this video ends, right? Yeah, this is where this video ends, right? And now we're just gonna be using these brushes to create our portrait.